Going live. Hi, everyone. It's me, Cadilac. Yesterday, we spoke briefly about the Young Thug trial, which is coming up. It starts on November 27th, and I promised you that we would review the indictment. So I want to do that now. As always, I'm not giving legal advice. In fact, today I'm talking about something that happened in not Alabama, Atlanta, Georgia. So I'm not even licensed there. I'm only licensed in the state of Texas. This is not legal advice. I'm not your attorney. This is just for fun, sharing what I know. Okay, so I have a copy of the indictment, which I will put in the chat for everyone in case you want to read it. So first, I'm going to tell you what an indictment is. Anytime there is a felony that occurs, the DA thinks a felony is occurring, they can take their package, or they do take their package of evidence in front of what we call a grand jury. Grand juries are a group of volunteers that are seated usually for about 6 months. They come in once, twice a week. They hear all of these preliminary cases, and they have to determine if there's enough evidence to indict the person or people, which means they have to determine if there's enough evidence to charge these people and move forward with a trial on a crime. This indictment is 88 pages long. It is a very incredibly long indictment. And as you recall, yesterday we started with about 20 plus defendants. Now, each defendant is not charged with every count that's in the indictment. So the indictment itself has 56 different allegations, 56 different counts, but there's only 20 or so defendants. So if you go look at the indictment, you'll see the defendants listed, and under their name will be the counts that they're being prosecuted on. So for instance, there is a man named Durante Beebe, and he is an AKA B, and he is being indicted on counts 1, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 27, and 28. So that is a lot of counts. Whereas Jeffrey Williams, who is AKA Young Thug, is only being indicted on 2 counts, count 1 and count 56. Now, count 1 is the conspiracy to violate the Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act, and count 56 is participation in criminal street gang activity. I did go through and read Georgia's RICO, the Racketeering Influenced and Corrupt Organization Act, which we all call RICO for short. And I read it and was very glad that I live in Texas, where we don't have RICO. To me, the RICO statutes are lazy. They are a catch-all for pretty much any kind of criminal activity, and really it's going to be used when the government can't actually prove their case. That's how I view it. That's my opinion. I'm glad I live in a state that doesn't have RICO, so they can't just come after you willy-nilly. When I read up on RICO charges, all kinds of things can be considered RICO. Even prostitution can be prosecuted under the RICO statute. So that is my issue. I don't like catch-all statutes, especially when they have to do with criminal law, when they have our government just throwing out a wide net and taking us all to jail. I do not like that at all. But here, Young Thug is facing the count 1, which is the RICO charge, and then the 56th count, which is criminal gang activity, participation in criminal street gang activity. So I'm going to assume that criminal street gang is an actual street gang. Pardon that noise, y'all. Oh, they got a big TV. Ooh, sorry about that. Street gang activity is not going to be the same as the type of like Italian mafia gang activity we see. Street gang is going to be considered exactly that. One thing I found very interesting about this indictment is that it talks about like a specific location. Also, it says that these activities began in 2012. Now, I know that murder has no statute of limitations, but I believe that everything else should have statute of limitations. And I certainly, if I were one of the attorneys defending these gentlemen, would be looking into statute of limitations issues to try to get this tossed. But the indictment has like a really long write-up on the enterprise. YSL is an enterprise consisting of a group of individuals associated in fact, although not a legal entity. Uh, Interestingly enough, on a side note, I work in real estate and I see sometimes people make up entities and get a deed written to that entity, right? But it's not actually a legal entity. It doesn't exist. It's just something like a name someone made up. And I think we can prove that those deeds are voidable because it's not an actual real party. I've also noticed that when people have those made up names and they're not a like actual legal entity, usually they're doing something shady. That's just my own experience. I'm not on the YSL jury though. So um, the indictment goes on to describe YSL as a criminal street gang that started in late 2012 in the Cleveland Avenue area of Atlanta, Georgia, and that they have affiliation with the National Bloods gang. So that's interesting. The founders allegedly were Young Thug and some guy named Walter Murphy, Trontavious Stevens. So just three dudes allegedly started this sect of street gang on the YSL. Uh, so throughout the indictment, the government kind of outlines here's a date and here is some evidence of how these people committed these acts. So, for instance, the government is alleging on January 25th, 23, that Trontavious Stevens, an associate of YSL, committed the felony offense of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Then in June of 13, they say Justin Cobb, who's also an associate, committed a felony of theft by deception. And so they basically are going through like every crime every single one of these persons has committed since 2013 and has committed or allegedly committed, because I don't know if they were ever proven guilty on these. So I want to make sure I'm not prosecuting anyone here. But interesting, I mean, they're going thing by thing by thing by thing that someone, oh, well, this guy did this and this guy did this. In January 3rd, 15, defendant Damakian Garlington and Jeffrey Williams, associates YSL, posed for a photo with the caption, "We ain't going back and forth," an overt act in furtherance of the conspiracy. We ain't going back and forth. I guess I don't know enough about slang usage, but we ain't going back and forth to me is not a crime. I tell people all the time we're not going back. I'm not going back and forth on this. I'm not going to play games. We're not going to be fighting. How is the photo? See, this is why this is such an interesting case, y'all, because there are some serious First Amendment constitutional rights. We should be able to post a photo and say we ain't going back and forth. That doesn't mean we're in a gang. Now, they are going to use the totality of the circumstances. They're going to look at all of it. They're going to say, oh, well, it's not just this one photo, it's all of these things. And that's what they did in this indictment. And I can see from an 88-page indictment why the grand jury would move forward with the charges. But I think it will be interesting for us to see as an audience starting November 27th, the trial starts, whether or not the prosecutor can actually meet their burden of beyond a reasonable doubt. So we shall see. Thank you for joining me and learning about the indictment. And I cannot wait. 21 days, I'm counting down to go over this trial with y'all.